All right, let's get going here. So welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Uplink. I'm Jacob Swin, I'm marketing manager with Nova Labs, which is the founding team behind the Helium Network. Excited to be here. Today, very excited actually. We've got a team from Microsoft to talk about the latest Microsoft and Helium Console integration with Azure IoT Central. So super pumped to let these guys kind of run the show here and talk about that. I'm going to do a little bit of a Helium introduction to get started, and then I'll hand it off. So, I think most people know about the Helium network, but if not, this should be some pretty interesting info for you. So Helium was started and founded in 2013. The mission to make it easier to build decentralized wireless networks. And, we've come a long way since 2013, and we're doing some really cool stuff, a lot of growth, especially in the last year. Since I've been here in the last year, we've gone from 20 some thousand hotspots to almost 800,000 today. So amazing growth, really cool to see. And we've been very lucky to be backed by some of the best VC firms in the world to make this vision a reality. You can see some of them listed below here. All right, I was talking about the growth here. So amazing to see. We have, as about 30 minutes ago, we're at around a little over 784,000 hotspots in over 59,000 cities in 172 countries around the world. So really global coverage from the network. Also, reasons that people choose to use the Helium network. Some of the biggest ones that we see here are low data transfer costs. So kind of the party line is a device that sends data every 5 minutes usually costs around $1 per year. So very, very low cost to send data over the network. It's accessible and easy to use. You can pretty much start using it with any compatible off-the-shelf LoRaWAN device. Helium is open source, decentralized, so that means increasing access to various open source projects and allows people, and companies to avoid issues like vendor lock-in and things like that. And then when you use the network, you only pay based on usage, so you don't have to sign any contracts. You don't have to, be locked in anything that kind of overshoots your needs and makes you pay for a lot. You pay based on the usage and the data sent over the network. Our ecosystem has grown significantly. I actually think we've added right around 20 new users to the ecosystem page. So we have solutions just all over the place, different data governing things, asset tracking, all that type of stuff. So check it out and look and see all the different things that the Helium network enables. Very cool. 2022, we have a really exciting roadmap for 2022. A lot of things coming up, starting with light hotspots, which, activation date is coming up next week, I believe. So that's going to make a huge difference on the network, take away a lot of the burden from hotspots and make the network more reliable. We also launched Helium roaming services about a month and a half ago, and we've added some really cool roaming partners. We've got Senate, who just announced they're roaming globally on the network as of a couple of weeks ago, Actility, Xtelia, Tectena as well. So that is really driving usage on the network. We got a couple campaigns going, especially the 3G switch to the Helium network. Just, most 3G cell networks are sunsetting if they haven't already. So, the Helium network is a very viable option for a lot of people using 3G for IoT. So it's, check that out. We do have a landing page for that. It's just helium.com/switch. And then finally, Helium 5G. We just actually had a community call this morning talking about Helium 5G and upcoming, work on that. Very exciting. Stay tuned. We just published a blog on the Helium blog a couple days ago, I think at the beginning of this week, kind of talking about updates on there as well. So exciting stuff. With that, I'm going to talk about very recent news. I think most of you know, I even mentioned Nova Labs here, but we had a major announcement a month or so ago where the team at Helium is now Nova Labs, the Helium Foundation. You can read all of this announcement in our blog by our CEO, Amir. Really cool stuff, and that allows us to kind of further work towards decentralization and really focus our resources on that 2022 roadmap. I showed you the number of hotspots. We have 750K, I like to say 750,000 hotspots. That was a pretty significant milestone. So we're creeping up on 1 million And then we're just starting to do some new user announcements. And I actually just announced a really cool company yesterday, new user of the network, Binary Beer, where they're putting smart, they're basically making smart beer kegs for craft beer brewers to kind of track their kegs around the world, monitor, inventory levels, all that type of stuff. So yeah, check that out. And we're going to be announcing new users very soon. And we have a bunch in the pipeline. So with that, like I said, we've got the team from Microsoft here. I've got Oscar, Avneet, and Tom, and I'm going to turn it over to them in just a second and let them talk about the Azure IoT Central Helium Console integration, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. And all right, Tom, you guys can take it away.
Hey guys, really excited to be here with the Helium team, talking to you all today about the new integration with IoT Central with my colleagues Avneet and Oscar. Let's get things underway here. So we're going to talk about some new scenarios that we're seeing at Microsoft for digital transformation that really leverage networks like the Helium network that require low power and global coverage. So we'll go through some scenarios. And then Avneet's going to walk us through sort of where this front door takes us. So you're on the network, you're looking at digital transformation, making projects that have real world impact. So what's that front door look like in the Microsoft cloud, which is our IoT Central proposition? And then Oscar's going to take us through a brief demo of that. And basically, if you step back, like networks are great, but what we're really trying to do at Microsoft is provide a platform for, making digital transformation projects. And that centers around modeling the physical universe, right? Making a digital twin, whether it's a city or a machine or a production line. And historically, our digital twins focus has really been in areas of the physical world where you have ubiquitous, compute resources, electricity, power, real estate, et cetera. So if you're looking at a factory system or an MRI machine or some kind of automated Industry 4.0 environment, you probably have all of those things. But there's lots of the world out there that doesn't have those characteristics. So if you're trying to look at the health of apples or the produce in an orchard, or you're looking at the inventory of cars as they move from inside of a factory to outside on a storage lot, or you're trying to identify, when do I need to have somebody go empty out a rodent from a pest control system, or you're monitoring vast areas of a physical grid like a power grid or a utilities grid of some sort, or monitoring inside of office spaces where there's many different connection points required, or even outside in forests for tracking the impact of climate change or forest fires, et cetera. Or when those forests do catch fire, where's the smoke going? Where are we seeing damage? Where is it going to go next? Or if you're tracking assets, across highways as they make their way to retail environments, or indeed, across the ocean. Or again, out in, whether it's an oil pumping station or a wind farm, assets that are out in remote places, garbage cans that need to be emptied, optimizing that whole process, or having overlay networks inside of challenging RF environments where, the LoRaWAN network capabilities can really help provide connectivity. In all of these cases, and these are actually real examples of customer scenarios that we're seeing where these low power emerging technologies are helping be an important part of the transformation project, and where we are really excited to be partnering with Helium and leveraging the Helium network is really to be able to jumpstart that with ubiquitous global coverage from their network, the ability of the LoRaWAN technology to in a very power efficient way run on batteries for years, the absence of upfront capital requirements to just leverage a network that's always on and already there is tremendous, and also the wide array and growing footprint of LoRaWAN sensors that we see. So what we really see that whole network and this integration today being is like a complement. Our low power networking with our 5G and Wi-Fi networks, all being really that front door into the Azure or into the Microsoft cloud that then enables you to go out there and build those transformative scenarios like I was talking about before across many markets, whether it's in energy or smart spaces or manufacturing, et cetera. And so with that, that's basically some scenarios that we're seeing in the marketplace. We see the network as the ingestion point. IoT Central as the front door to the Microsoft cloud. And for that, I'll turn it over to Avneet to describe more in detail what it is about IoT Central that can help you be successful with those kinds of projects.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. I mean, again, when we talk about IoT Central, I think it's important to kind of highlight that in all of the use cases that Tom mentioned, you absolutely need a ubiquitous kind of connectivity strategy, right? To be able to connect all of the data that you're sending from your IoT sensors or assets over to the cloud endpoint. And to do that, again, we got to look at like, what is IoT, right? Like, what does it mean to kind of be able to enable these assets through a connectivity layer like the Helium platform? And really the simplistic view that I always share with folks is, again, it's a series of things that are connecting to a cloud endpoint like Helium's, and then sending data to Azure, which then can be used to, again, drive a lot of transformation downstream in your business workflows. And as you look at this, right, flow, there's several kind of stages that our customers go through today, right? So in an IoT installation sort of journey, you're often going to be starting with connecting and monitoring the devices that Tom mentioned, of course, in a variety of different environments. Which is then going to lead to, again, you being able to kind of analyze and improve your existing business workflows to really optimize and enhance the products that you have or the processes that are in place. And then that leads over to effectively transforming and expanding your business with either net new revenue opportunities or new signals that can drive new business models for your products as well. And as you go through this journey, we realized to get to that pot of gold effectively on the far right hand side, the customer value and get to a higher customer value, you kind of have to increase your investment that you're spending again in this space. So I always use this analogy of, again, a bicyclist who's, again, going through this journey. And today we realize there's a series of challenges that are upfront to them that they need to kind of be able to handle to even go on an IoT journey, right? And a big part of that is like, how am I going to connect my devices, right? So Helium Network kind of enables you to be able to do that and really get your sensor data in a singular place so that you can go react to that data and then be able to generate insights. But there's a series of other challenges, right? And we've been collecting lots of signals from our industry report outs that we do. So over the past 3 years, we've done an IoT signals report where we talk to over 3,000 ITDMs and business decision makers and developers to generally learn about like what are the challenges that they're going through. And there's a series of challenges that you can see here. I've highlighted kind of the top 5. And it often comes down to, again, a lack of kind of the technical knowledge to be able to build out a solution, which goes from connectivity to data aggregation to insights generation, right? That there's just isn't that capability there, right? And lack of budget or staff resources. IoT often doesn't get its own budget within a business, right? You have to reflect on what kind of ROI is that going to generate, and there's often difficulty in folks kind of dedicating a portion of the budget to just be able to handle IoT. Lack of knowledge is a big one. Haven't found the right IoT solution or the right IoT platform to be able to kind of work through. And then security is always top of mind for folks as they're connecting a lot of these sensors to the cloud and sending a lot of the data out of their physical environments. So when we look at these challenges in this journey, where we see, again, our placement with IoT Central is largely to be able to remove and minimize these obstacles, right? So you can improve your journey along this path that I mentioned. And quickly get to that pot of gold on the right? Really get to the business insights and transforming your business workflows. So when we talk about this, again, this journey, again, in the 3 stages that I mentioned, really where we come in with IoT Central is effectively is in this layer in the middle, right? So today when our customers and our partners who are solution builders are leveraging our Azure PaaS services or IaaS services to go build solutions, they often have to connect a series of different services together to be able to really define an IoT backbone. So in this view, you'll see me using IoT Hub as kind of the front end ingestion endpoint where I'm consuming a lot of the data. Then I'm sending it down to Azure Stream Analytics to be able to kind of generate rules and alarms on what my data is doing and based on some thresholds that I have. Then I have a storage layer that's kind of backing all of this. I have a time series analytics layer where I can visualize a lot of the analytics that are coming out of this. I've got Azure ML models that might be running on top of this data to do anomaly detection and whatnot. So really this architecture can get really complex as you go towards advanced scenarios. And our goal has been on how do we help you kind of answer some of the questions that you need to answer to build a scalable strategy, right? So when you're building off of the PaaS layer, you often have to kind of identify how am I going to go scale the solution past a single environment, right? Past a single wind farm if I want to go across the globe and have multiple wind farms kind of connected to my solution. What is my HADR strategy? Like how I'm going to make this highly available what is going to happen in the disaster recovery stage when a particular PaaS service goes down? How will I model all of the data that's coming through, right? Like Helium Network lets you transform a lot of the data that you're collecting into payload that you understand. But when you have devices connecting through several different gateway endpoints or even directly connecting to the cloud, how do I make sure that I can model my data so I can consistently kind of react to that data as well? And again, this list goes on and on, right? How do I manage my users? What is my storage strategy? How am I going to get my fleet connected in a multi-tenant environment? How would I be able to run commands, right? So a lot of these questions are generally, again, the overhead that you have to kind of be able to address before you can truly scale a solution. And where IoT Central comes in is essentially abstracting away that complexity that you saw in the two slides before with a lot of those PaaS services to really give you a higher order platform that you can get started with to build out your solution that is enterprise ready, that is scaled ready effectively, to be able to manage and really handle the workloads that you're kind of onboarding into the IoT Central workloads. And this ready-made environment, as we call it for IoT solution development, lets you kind of spend less energy on getting your assets and getting your devices connected to spending more time on the right-hand side, right? So this is where we kind of reduce the complexity in the middle so that you can focus on the right-hand side, which is where the differentiated value is, right? There's today very little to no differentiation in generating your own IoT backbone and maintaining your own IoT backbone. The differentiation exists in that transform and expand phase where you want to take the IoT insights and be able to drive new value through your business. And that's where we want to free up time for our customers and our partners in the middle so that they can go invest on the far right-hand side. And we have a series of partners and customers that have been on this journey with us, right? So I'm highlighting just a few of them that are on this journey and that have deployed solutions that in some of the use cases that Tom mentioned. So one I'll pick is C.H. Robinson. They are in a logistics they're a logistics provider. I think they're the third largest in the world, where they track a series of their assets and goods on roads, on highways, over the ocean, and again, wherever the shipping containers effectively go. Right. And they have a solution called Navisphere that they provide to their customers to be able to track that inventory and track their goods. What they realize is that, hey, I want to add more real-time status of my inventory, right? Not just the location data and the inventory ERP data, but I want to be able to show to my consumers on what is the lighting conditions where your inventory is, right? What is the vibration condition? Are there shock sensors that you can kind of get readings from, right? And they wanted to augment their existing kind of business value that they're providing to their customers with this rich IoT data. So what they have done is they've leveraged IoT Central to connect a series of low-powered sensors through Intel gateways to effectively gather a lot of the IoT data and start to drive this new insight for their customers directly within a solution that they've already been selling. So, right, so this is not net new disruption or net new product, but it's effectively a net new set of insights that they're feeding into the same products. And there's several others, right? Kitchen Brains is in a QSR environment. So they produce solutions for quick serve restaurants like McDonald's, where you're collecting a lot of this asset data from appliances or from burners and from fryers in your in the QSR restaurant to send that data over to the cloud, so you can better optimize their life cycle, right? Life cycle of those assets. Bimbo Bakery is another one. Again, this is a heavy edge scenario where Bimbo has facilities all across the globe where they're, again, manufacturing lots of different products, but they want to be able to collect all that data and send it in an aggregate way to IoT Central so that they can drive more effectiveness of their equipment downstream as well. So again, these are just some of many customers that are kind of building with us today. Now, you may ask, okay, what's included in this platform, right? Like, how do I get started and really where do I begin my journey? And this is kind of a view of a 10,000 foot view. And there's, again, details on each of these effectively on what they enable. But I want to give you a quick overview in the next few minutes on what some of the capabilities are and where you can go to kind of get started. So with IoT Central, when you're starting out, you're effectively starting with getting your device and telemetry model, right? So this is where if you've connected your sensors to Helium hotspots and you're getting data from Helium, you can now send that data to IoT Central in a transform way and effectively model it so you can react to that data and transform that data, right? So the modeling capabilities largely go into connecting these devices in minutes if they're plug and play certified, or being able to model them in a language we call DTDL, digital twin definition language, that allows you to kind of structure your payload in a consistent way so you can react on that data independent of which sensor it's coming from. You can model this data so you can also then use it downstream in your business applications. So IoT Central kind of enables this transformation, which I'll talk a little bit more about. within the product, so you can get your IoT data from DTDL format to something your products, your business applications can kind of understand on the far right hand side. The second piece is about device management. Once you've got this bulk set of devices, your fleet of vehicles or assets into IoT Central through the Helium network, you want to make sure there's a streamlined bulk device management strategy, so you can send commands and control down to the device. You can apply firmware updates, or you can apply configuration change, or calibrate your sensors if that's what you're doing. So IoT Central kind of enables that experience both through UX as well as a rich extensibility surface through a set of REST APIs that you can use to kind of power that device management workflow. So in the device management, you can again visualize all of the devices that are in your IoT Central application. You can also build views that are tailored to your devices. You can directly look at the raw data or aggregated data for these devices, in addition to kind of looking at the analytics. You can not just connect sensors, but you can connect heavy edge devices like Bimbo bakeries, where they're running a lot of the workloads in the factories that are doing the compute and only sending alarms and alerts up to the cloud, right? So those capabilities are baked into the platform. That way, you're not building out how do you, again, manage all that data or manage your devices, but you largely focus on actually curating those actions effectively. The next one is storage of data. So all of the data that we gather in IoT Central, we keep for over 30 days effectively. So to give you a real-time view of the devices, but to also give you the ability to kind of extract that data in your companion applications. So if you were Navisphere and you were building the CH Ribbons and Navisphere application, you could pull this data out of our data export layer, which I'll talk about in a minute, but you could also get this data through our API layer for the 30-day period. And if you're looking for longer retention, IoT Central has built the right set of extensibility points to get your data and take it to a storage account so you can retain for almost infinite period of time or based on what your needs are. Dashboards. So we have a huge investment in dashboards on how you create views that span your fleet of devices and visualize, again, the telemetry coming from these devices. There's tons of widgets that are built into the platform, and also extensibility that allows you to embed your custom controls into the platform through an iframe strategy at the moment. You can create these dashboards to be both private or public. So if you wanted to share a dashboard with a group of individuals within your organization or keep it private, you have the ability to kind of do so as well in the platform. The next one is data export, and this is probably the most commonly used capability in the platform, which is not just how do I get data inside of IoT Central, but how do I go focus on the right inside and power my business applications, right? And there's really two ways of doing that. You can get all of the data that you're ingesting in IoT Central and export that out in an aggregated way, in a filtered way, or enriched way to your downstream destination, so you can make use of that data. So we allow you to kind of do this through our data export layer, where you can enrich a set of data by adding more metadata that you might want to in the cloud that your asset might not be aware of, but it might be location data that you want to kind of augment with your asset telemetry. You can export this to a series of different destinations like blob storage, service bus, event hub, our Azure Data Explorer pipeline, or Azure Synapse pipeline, and then also custom webhook, which again really opens up the world to where you can send the data, right? Because you can have any downstream application or service that can host a webhook and take your data there. And then again, you can export this to multiple destinations. So you might want to slice and dice your data and send it to different endpoints. You have the ability to do so within your IoT Central application as well. Next one is data transformation, which is actually built into our data export layer. So oftentimes customers ask us, hey, that my IoT data is being structured in a DTDL format, which is great. It gives me the uniformity across a bunch of my IoT sensors. But when I'm sending this data downstream to my business applications, they don't understand that DTDL format, or they don't essentially need the same set of granularity that you get for the IoT data from within my IoT Central application. How can I transform that data without having to have a ton of transformation pipeline downstream from IoT Central? And really, to answer that, we've built an in-product capability to use JQ library that allows you to kind of apply transforms on top of your data and either aggregate it or filter it or kind of pull out any kind of noise that's there from your data and get that sent over to the destination of your choice. Eventing rules. So we have a rich set of rule surface within the platform that allows you to kind of create threshold-based rules and alerts so that you can say, hey, if the conditions meet a certain sort of threshold within a specific time period, I want to be able to trigger rules and alerts downstream to other parts of my IoT Central application or other parts of my business applications as well. And we, again, integrate with a series of first-party Microsoft endpoints like downstream services like Azure Monitor Service or Power Automate. And we also integrate with a series of third-party services where you can send emails and SMSs and whatnot. With the integration to Power Automate, really that again opens up your world to almost 300 connectors that Power Automate provides. And you can then take that data from Power Automate to almost any business application you're building. And at the same time, we're also kind of hosting an ability to send the data to a webhook, which again allows you to kind of build a custom, completely entirely custom application, not based on kind of the Microsoft first party stack, and then take your data to that third party application as well. API is the next big one. So I mentioned a big part of our investment actually goes into our extensibility surface, because we genuinely believe that we can't capture, again, everyone's scenarios, right? We want to create as much flexibility as we can around the platform. And largely we do this by building a rich set of APIs to both programmatically access all of the constructs that I've talked about so far in IoT Central, but also give you the ability to programmatically access the data out of the IoT Central application to really power your companion apps, your business applications that I've referenced a few times now. You can use this API to kind of drive command and control, and also query data from those devices within that 30-day kind of window for the device data. The last two that I'll talk briefly about is customization. So as I've mentioned, we have a series of customers and partners using this platform where IoT Central kind of just blends in behind the scenes, right? So when you look at CH Robinson Navisphere, they use our white labeling capabilities to really make IoT Central a companion to their Navisphere solution, where the Microsoft or the Azure brand doesn't bleed through. It's largely the partners or the customer's brand that they want to be able to utilize. So you can fully customize our IoT Central applications to look and feel the way you want it to be, and align better with your brand as well. The last one is around multi-tenancy. So a series of our customers have multiple environments or multiple facilities that they want to manage within the same solution, or even geographical distributions that they want to kind of split their applications around. So we've built an in-app multi-tenancy strategy where you can have a series of organizations which could represent, again, locations or facilities or customers that you might want to kind of manage within the same application environment as well. And this organization capability is both visualized through our UX as well as available through our API surface. So you can programmatically create this kind of hierarchy in your solution through the API there as well. So that's a quick wrap on, again, what's possible today. And there's a ton more in the pipeline. So this is a quick view of the roadmap, which I won't go through, but this is largely going to be, again, rolling out on a month-over-month basis. Look at Azure updates pipeline. I'll drop in a link there in the chat. And essentially, that's where we post all the updates that are happening to the platform. So stay tuned on that. And then now I'll hand it over to Oscar to kind of show you a demo of the product as well, especially with the Helium.
Great, will do. Let me switch over here. Great. So I want to do a quick demo. As you are probably very familiar with, this is the Helium console. And now, if you go to integrations, then you can see IoT Central. And how you basically create this integration is very simple. You just have to provide a couple of parameters, and voila, you are connected to IoT Central. Let me actually show you our IoT Central integration. So that's all what it is. And what I did to showcase the demo is use a tracker, very popular, that's called a Naviway compact tracker. And in fact, this is the page for the tracker. And this tracker, apart from providing geolocation information, it also has temperature. So that was very ideal. And as you know, for the data coming in, most of the time, you need a decoder to basically translate the payload that you're getting. So basically, Naviway has a GitHub repo where they provide their decoder, and all I did was to take that and make it into the corresponding function here in Helium. And with that, I just defined, go back to the full screen, the connection between, the flow between the tracker going through the decoder and then into IoT Central. Now, let me go to IoT Central. So one of the advantages of using IoT Central is that you can very easily model that data. So as the data is coming into IoT Central, you can do a couple of things. So one, ideally, if you have a device template that represents the model of that data, then all you need is to plug in that device, and voila, you will see that data making sense in IoT Central. But if not, you can very easily, look at the data that you're getting and create a template. So for example, here, I went on and created a very simple template for this data that showcases temperature, battery voltage, and position. And if I go back to the view, that's how you get to see the positioning data and the temperature. And by the way, it does get a little warm here in the Pacific Northwest. I had the Abby tracker right by my window, and because we had sun, started heating up. And then I moved it away, it went down, and now I put it close to the window again. So, very simple, but yet, showcasing the real-time capabilities that you get. The other interesting thing about modeling the data is that no matter how deep in the hierarchy the data might be, you can very easily, reach out to that data and in this example, create aliases. So I created one for the position so that I was able to use this predefined map pile that came with IoT Central. The other thing I did was I created a rule for the temperature. And again, very simple, I created a condition when the temperature was greater than 20 degrees Celsius to send an email to myself saying it's getting warm in here. And as you can see, that trigger got executed and I got my email. So very simple and but yet very powerful. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Tom.
Sure. Hopefully that gives people a sense of, how to quickly get going. One thing we didn't mention is there's free trials for IoT Central, even if you don't have an Azure subscription. So you can get going quickly with a couple devices. It's quick and easy to get going with the Helium console, and IoT Central really gets you past that front door and able to start leveraging the data inside the Microsoft cloud, inside of other assets that we have, everything from machine learning to the Power Platform, Power BI, visualizations, all the sort of stuff that really is the reason you're collecting that data and deploying those sensors in the first place. So we would love to hear and add to our growing list of interesting scenarios that people are using. We're just getting started with the IoT Central. We already have some really interesting scenarios that we're working on with customers. If you guys are out there building new stuff that's interesting, please keep in touch with us and let us know. We love to see the results of these kinds of integrations that we're doing. So Jacob, maybe can bring us home.
Yes, perfect. Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. Tom, just to piggyback on what you were saying there, do you have like a link or anything for people to contact? You can even email that over to me and we can put it up in YouTube when this video goes up. If there's a way, specific way you want people to reach out, maybe if they're doing that.
Let's just, I'll put my email in here, right? So if somebody's got a project and they're going on, just
perfect.
Just bring it to my attention.
Personal attention right there.
Why not?
Yeah. Hey, I had a quick question before we kind of open it to the audience. You talked a little bit about the verticals. Avneet was going through there, kind of the different verticals. Are there specific ones that you see on IoT Central more than others? Is asset tracking is usually a big one, but are there some that maybe we aren't thinking about, or some that might be a surprise to people at all?
I'd answer that in two ways, because certainly for IoT Central is a generalized platform, and we have a lot of heavy edge solutions that are industrial in nature, because IoT Central also does things like manage, edge runtimes and deploying models into the edge runtimes and things like that. So we're certainly seeing a lot of that. And I would say actually, whether you look at LoRaWAN, Helium Network, narrowband IoT, other kind of networks like this, certainly that's what we're seeing is asset tracking. And as you know, anything that is out in the environment that needs a response. And I'll say we have, like I show those examples and they're real and they're relevant to Helium, right? I got a pest trap that needs to be emptied. I've got a trash can that needs to be emptied. I've got a bathroom that needs to be cleaned. Those kinds of things where it's easy to get it into IoT Central and use either Power Platform Dynamics or even, our connectors, they go into Salesforce, they go into, SAP or Maximo or any of those kinds of systems where the action's taking place. So we're seeing a lot of those kinds of scenarios where basically you're driving some kind of a field service or action in response to environmental conditions.
Gotcha. Yeah. And do you see trends for some that may not be, using IoT, LoRaWAN, stuff like that right now, but you think like in the future might be?
I think that's going to be an interesting thing. I mean, if we just take our company hats off and look into the future, right? That's where I think it's really interesting to see how things will develop with really global solutions with ubiquitous coverage like this, and how that's going to shake out between sort of the the regulated spectrum and the open spectrum, and how these technologies get applied. There's so much potential out there, and we're working with everyone from regulated utilities industries all the way through shipping companies, and their requirements are all different. And I think people are seeing the potential. The devices are coming online, the networks are lighting up, and it's going to be interesting to continue to watch how the industry develops.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not seeing many questions from the audience here. We got a quiet group today, but while maybe some people are thinking of some questions, I just want to, first of all, thank the Microsoft team for being here today. Really appreciate it. That was a great presentation. If anyone wants to reach out to, Tom put his email right there. If you have any questions, we can also put that in the YouTube description. If you want to reach out to us at Helium, at Nova Labs, I guess I should probably update those emails, but contribute to the project on GitHub. We are open source, so we're always, the community is building the network. Follow us on social media, especially Twitter and Reddit, and then join Discord for any, we have a great community, almost 200,000 members on Discord. So a lot of great resources there, a lot of great conversations, stay up to date with everything happening with the Helium network. You can contact me, Jacob, at Helium will still work, pretty sure. If we don't have any questions, then again, I just want to say thanks again, Tom, Oscar. I think Avneet had to drop, but really appreciate you guys being here. Super excited to keep working with Microsoft, and it's been a pleasure working with you this far. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Uplink.
Thank you very much, Jacob.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.